Welcome to the Mortgage Warrior podcast featuring Steve Dostal. Host Daryl Smart chats with the Mortgage Warrior about his no BS approach to financing. That will be sprinkled in with conversations with other people in the business and around the community. So without further ado, here he is, the Mortgage Warrior, Steve Dostal.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Mortgage Warrior podcast. Daryl Smart, my good buddy Steve the Mortgage Warrior Dostal. How's it going there, brother?
How's it going? Episode 11.
Episode 11, we broke the double digits and we got consecutive weeks. So we're on a streak. It's like kind of like on the Peloton, and you get the little you get the ribbon after you do the cycle.
Oh, you have a Peloton?
I freaking love the thing.
I have the Peloton too, and I started been using it.
Is it good for the knee?
That was horrible English there. I started using it again because I got it a couple of years ago, and then when the knee was hurt and I wasn't able to do it properly. So now I'm on it on my off days. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays I ride the bike, and then I do the training at STG with Mike Pirelli on Mondays and Wednesdays. So
what do you think? Who's your favorite instructor?
I don't do the instructor. I put on
really.
I have the big screen. I just put on TSN,
nice.
And I just ride through the morning and just watch the the highlights and whatever else, and then I'll scroll through my phone or whatever. Yeah, I'm not into paying that kind of money to have somebody yell at me.
I'm blaming my wife. She's the one that paid for it, and I was like, all right, and now I have someone in spandex yelling at me, which is all right.
Better them in spandex than you. Just joking.
You don't want to see that.
Or me. You don't want to see that.
You do not want to see that. But you know what? Episode 10, we were kind of wrapping up about just what we were up to the last couple months, because we'd been away from a little bit. We both had trips. We both did a little bit of development. We both had a lot of work going on.
I have 2 kids in college.
Oh, I know.
Oh, man.
How was the move?
It was good. It was pretty easy. Yeah.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Where are they now?
Jasmine's in Humber. Ryan's in, what do you call it? Fanshawe.
Fanshawe. Nice.
Yeah. And then Jordan, actually, my stepson is the insurance warrior. So he's got his insurance license. He's been working with me. He's been, mining my database, mining, the clients that I get now. And, he's doing pretty good. So.
Nice.
Pretty soon gonna have the one-stop shop of we have mortgages, insurance, and pretty soon we'll have a realtor involved, right?
Is that why you're moving?
No, I'm moving because a bunch of different reasons why I want to move. But I mean, I've been downtown now for 5 years, and this is time to get out of the downtown. There's a bunch of things that happen down here that make it very eventful and make it very scary sometimes, because there's a lot of drug use, there's a lot of homelessness, and the city is I don't really like to comment about what the city is or isn't doing, but let's just say that one of the reasons why I am moving is because it's time just to move.
You've outgrown it, basically.
I've outgrown it. It's a little too big for what we have here. I mean, it's almost 1,800 square feet office, right? I have a full upstairs, and
that should be the studio.
Well, it should be, but I don't think that would go over well. I don't need no couch upstairs, but no, just anyways,
right.
It's fine.
That's all right. But this episode, we're gonna change gears a little bit, because, and again, we were talking about world news in episode 10, and now we're going to talk a little bit more local news. Because you were saying about the CBC broke this story just about mortgage fraud, and it was a huge deal, and because of it, there's all sorts of ramifications with it.
Yeah, and one of the things that what I take from it is, first and foremost, I mean, I don't like the fact that they centered out a community in Brampton only. I mean, it's not only South Asians that, do fraud. There's white people that do fraud. There's black people that do fraud. There's Asians that do fraud. So I think how they did it and what they did, I think they went to the path of least resistance, where Brampton is known for a lot of, fraud for shelter. Yeah. And what fraud for shelter means is, I make $80,000 a year, but this broker that I met is able to make me look like I make $150,000 a year. They're pretty brazen with it. I mean, you can go on Reddit, and they had like a list of, things they can do for you, like 12 months bank statements, last 2 years, T1 generals, notice of assessments, basically done up in a way where even CRA would have a hard time, seeing if it was fraud unless they actually, matched the numbers and looked and said, well, yeah, this guy really didn't make that, right? So
is that how it got broke on Reddit? Because it seems like it's one of those things that and again, I'll use it for my NHL streaming Reddit, but not for mortgages and whatnot.
It's Reddit. I didn't even know what Reddit was until I started reading upon this, right? So I went in there and you start, and the fact that what really bothers me, and just to give you a scope of it, as a mortgage broker, we have to liaison between our client and the lender. Right? So the lender basically says, Steve, we need this document, that document, and this document for us to be able to prove that this person can afford the mortgage payment and have their ratios in line with the stress test to make sure that if the rates go higher, that they're still going to be able to afford the property, blah, blah, blah. What bothers me is that I've lost probably over the last 5 deals, probably 20 deals, I would say, that were significant deals for me, telling a client that, hey, you know what, I can't get this done for you on the A side, but I can get it done on the B side. Sure, the rate is a tiny bit higher, but not much higher. And then there's a 1% lender fee and a 1% brokerage fee. Yeah. Well, some people get bent out of shape when it comes to fees, which is fine. So then they're going to go find the path of least resistance.
Of course.
So just like the CBC says, that with their document, that if, you sell $1 million home, right, that's $50,000 to the realtor, $25 to each realtor if they brought another realtor in, and then the mortgage broker can make $10,000, to $5,000 to $10,000 each. Yeah. So now you're at $80,000 per transaction, and that's a lot of money. So if you're a newcomer coming to our country, that's a huge amount of money, right? Like, a lot of my friends who work in the factories and stuff like that are making that a year. Yeah. Right? So when you're making that kind of money that easy and that brazen, and the government hasn't done anything for it, meaning if somebody gets caught doing it, I'm going to use the Fortress guys out of Toronto, and they came to my office years ago to try to sell me on getting all my clients to put their RSPs in with them and do all that other stuff like that, and to be able to do all these big developments all over Toronto and Calgary. And next thing you know, a lot of these projects went, belly up, and these people lost all their money. That's fraud, right? Like you when you're telling somebody you can get them something and then you don't give them what they, what's in the agreement, or if you're doctoring up your letters of employment or your pay stubs or whatever, because Adobe Photoshop apparently is a hell of a thing. Yeah. Right? It's no difference with amazing, you. Yeah. It's no difference with you, editing our videos here. Yeah. Right.
Well, hey, you can put anything in Photoshop. Let me tell you.
And then what the CBC did is, again, for a lot of my cultured people, like my black friends, my South Asian friends, my Asian friends, the whole racism thing is coming out huge now, because now you got a whole community in Brampton and this whole home life real estate office that seems to not condone this stuff. They were just like, well, if this was happening, it's unbeknownst to me. But if you have 3,000 agents in 5 offices that you work for, you must know that there's sometimes that when people are coming over from different countries that are just getting into working minimum wage jobs, and all of a sudden they're in $1 million home in Brampton. Even on a B lender, you can't get that done.
So how did they get caught? Like, honestly, like they were swindling all these people. And like, who would put the red flag out there besides other mortgage lenders and or people just kind of with a thumb on things?
Well, what really realistically would happen is that if there was fraud found, the broker of record would have to be involved with it, right? So he would have to be involved. And then from there, it on the mortgage side, I can't speak for the real estate side because I'm not a realtor. Yeah. But, they have the Real Estate Association of Canada, Ontario, Brantford, all have their policies and procedures in with that. But on that video, you had a realtor.
So were they all involved in this, do you think?
A lot of people, well, I wouldn't say all the 3,000 people, but probably quite a few of them. Because think about it. You're making $50,000. You do 10 transactions. That's $500,000 for doing 10 deals that could take you maybe 2 hours tops to put together.
A pyramid scheme.
So when you look at that kind of money, the fraud is going to be out there. Yeah. So the problem I have with it is that the only way to really circumvent this is really, and I'm going to quote Ron Butler, who is a major player in our mortgage industry and for Butler Mortgages in Toronto. The guy's a brilliant man. A lot of people like him. A lot of people hate him because he just tells it the way it is. And he's right. CRA has to get involved here. If CRA puts on our credit bureaus with Equifax and TransUnion what people make on that tax year, the last 2 years for taxes, then I can't say Johnny Two Shoes is all of a sudden going from $50,000 a year to $200,000 a year to buy that $1.1 million fourplex, right? That's what's happening with this. So the biggest issue is that if the government doesn't step in and really enforce heavy fines and heavy punishments, meaning, like, example, the Fortress guys, again, they were able to keep fighting people because they had millions and millions of dollars of their money that they've recouped and not given them back. So no difference with these realtors and these mortgage brokers. If the government doesn't step in and just, take away their money that they did with the fraud, well, they're going to be able to fight it as long as they have that money.
So they're still fighting it, basically.
A lot of people will fight it.
Even with this article or this video out there, it's still going, do you think?
Dude, there's fraud everywhere, man. Like in this industry, I hate to say it, but the fraud for shelter is a pretty easy thing to do. You can go online and download the CRA T4 slip. It's easy to do, right? The problem is that, unless you're doing an extremely amount of volume, it's these new people that get into this industry that see that this is easily done. And if the government isn't enforcing the law and not giving a monetary fine that's substantial to deter you, clearly when you see that video, when that realtor, and I have to preface this again, that wasn't a mortgage broker. That was a realtor that had documents that were all ready to rock and roll for another deal he had ready to go, and showed people on a hidden camera that I can do that for you too.
Well, and that's what checks and balances should be about, though. Like an association, like you were saying,
there needs to be an independent, accredited auditor that goes into every company and just looks at what you're doing. Because if you see these people come in and you know that, like the average mortgage in purchase price in Brampton's over $1 million. Which is insane. Right? And if you're making minimum wage, or you're coming into this country and you might be educated in your other country, and then you have to go through, a rigorous process to be able to get your degree for here. I get that. But the problem is that if it's that easy for you to do, people are going to continue to do it until they are caught and fined appropriately and put in prison for, because not only are you messing up somebody's life, because some of these people didn't even know these brokers were doing it.
They're coming to the country, and this is the first impression for a lot of them. And
again, the biggest thing that I'm seeing is that, again, the racist comments, the racist remarks, the anti-South Asian racism that's going on right now in regards to this is ridiculous, and it needs to stop, because it's not just the South Asian community, right? There's pockets in Scarborough that have major issues with this stuff too, and the problem is that they can go undercover with anybody and they can figure out all this stuff and where it starts. But really, where it starts is from the ownership of that brokerage, and understanding that at the end of the day, if you got 3,000 realtors working for you, where is your integrity here? Where is your honesty, integrity, and the trust? That Home Life office out of Brampton now is under huge scrutiny now, right?
All about teams. You were talking about real estate teams and stuff like that.
So at the end of the day, again, if you have a big team, so I'm going to use, let's say I had a team, and I have 4 or 5 people that are working for me. And then one of them ends up talking to a mortgage broker that can tell them, hey, I can do these deals for you if you cut me back a little bit. At the end of the day, it really just boils down to, again, who you hire, how you see they work. If you know that, if you can take a file and you can look at it and you can audit it and you can see that, they've come into our country, they've been in Canada for maybe 1 or 2 years or whatever. They got their landed status and even their citizenship at times, whatever. But realistically, when you see that application come through, all they're seeing is dollar signs. They don't give a crap about the lender. And that's where it starts too, is that these lenders got to stop allowing them to continue to send deals in. You got to shut that pipeline down, because the more pipeline that they have, the more money they have to be able to fight the powers that be, because they have an unlimited amount of money because they're not being told they can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And you kind of summed it up there. And it's one of the, so what can we do, and how can how can we not get swindled? Maybe average Joe public out there, what can they do to make sure this doesn't happen to them?
Use a mortgage broker that has experience, right? Do your research, right? Google's out there for a reason. I mean, last night I made General Sal's chicken, and I had to use Google, and I ended up on TikTok.
Google,
I ended up on TikTok, and it showed me, you know what I mean, and it did a good job, and it tastes delicious. Yeah. So no difference when you're looking for a mortgage or looking for a real estate agent or a real estate broker or a lawyer, right? Do your research on who is doing well in your community, right?
That's why you're up top there. If you Google mortgages in Brantford or Burlington or anything, you're up there, and there's a reason for that, right?
At the end of the day, again, right? There's no bullshit here, right? Do I disappoint some people by telling them that I can't do a deal for them? Absolutely. I mean, I'd rather disappoint you and tell you can't get a deal than all of a sudden do a fraud for shelter for you. And then in a year, you're like, dude, why'd you put me in this mortgage? Because now I can't afford this. Rates have gone up to a certain part. And all that does is just drag down my business, and I can lose my license.
Well, and that honesty is, that's part of your charm, but it's also, that's just the right way to do things, right?
Yeah. It's, again, when you're talking about, we're not talking about thousands of dollars a year. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. And when you have that ability to be able to partner up with a bunch of other people that like to do this fraud stuff, at the end of the day, it's a racket. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, you know, you as the owner of the brokerage, and you're seeing some guy come in and he's been in your office for 6 months and he's got 4 or 5 deals on the go, and you're like, how in the hell did this guy get this done? Well, doesn't matter to you, because at the end of the day, you're getting a percentage of what he's bringing in. And if you got 3,000 people bringing in, you know, $50,000 each deal on their own, and they're taking 10 or 50 or 20% of that, that goes a long way, man.
Well, and that's why you like to collaborate with the right people. And that's why you kind of have that, and you have different people in every walk of life kind of working, and it's not necessarily a team, but that's what collaboration is all about, and that's what you're about, right?
Yeah, so you at the end of the day, do your research on your mortgage broker, do your research on your real estate broker, do your research on your lawyer, right? You know, appraisers that, you know, that are reputable, you can always look them up. It's easy to look them up. You know, Google is a hell of a thing.
Hey Siri.
Yeah, or whoever. Who's Siri?
Hey Siri.
It's
Let me
Bixby.
know about the Bixby. Oh, yeah,
I have Bixby. I'm a Samsung,
I like
right?
Bixby, right?
You know what I mean?
Hello,
It sounds
Bixby.
like a dog. You know, I took out some tissue out of your trash bag, right? Like, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, people do what they think they need to do. Oh, so there it is.
There we go.
There it is, the Bixby thing. Or no, that was Siri. No, we don't want to hear you.
Oh my goodness!
You're interrupting us, Siri.
Siri, stop it.
That's some Siri business.
That's Siri Siri's everywhere.
But anyways, just leave people with this, right? Yeah. Again, do your research. Make sure that the person that you're working with knows what they're doing. You know, the days of, you know, well, my brother-in-law does mortgages, or my sister-in-law is a real estate agent. Like, do your own bloody research, man. Honestly, don't listen to other people telling you what you should do. And if you don't like what that broker is telling you, go find another one. We're easy to find.
It's true. And that's end of number 11, episode 11, brother.
Yeah, episode 11. I know that was long-winded, but hey.
You know what? You need it. You need it. And again, you're no BS here, and that's what this podcast is about. Yeah, we like to talk about relationships and a whole bunch of topics, but when it comes down to stuff like this, and this is near and dear to your heart, because this is your bread and butter, and this is what puts food on your table. You have to be passionate about it. You have to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I appreciate it.
Anytime, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we will be back with episode 12, hopefully next week. Thanks for watching.
Hey,